It's the evening of Sunday, May 15th, 2016. It's unseasonably cool and cloudy in Aurora, Colorado. A cold front has been moving slowly across the Rocky Mountains, bringing periods of drizzle to the Denver metro area, with more rain in the forecast. 21-year-old Chelsea Marie Yasser arrives at Burger King at the corner of East Mississippi Avenue and South Blackhawk Street. She orders a burger, eats, and then disappears into a bathroom. About an hour later, Chelsea exits the fast food restaurant and stands outside. She's waiting for someone. She walks around the drive-thru lane and disappears from view at 9:29 p.m. Less than 30 minutes later, a minivan pulls into a Central Aurora shopping center parking lot. It's just a few blocks from the Burger King. Businesses are closed and the parking lot is mostly vacant. The minivan drives slowly south, stopping in front of Burlington Coat Factory. The van begins to shift back and forth. There's a struggle inside. Chelsea exits the front passenger side door, takes a few steps, and collapses. Chelsea's last moments, caught on grainy security video. It's been 10 years since Chelsea Yasser was murdered. To this day, her attacker hasn't been identified. We aim to change that. In a first-of-its-kind project for the Aurora Police Department, we're going to bring you inside this investigation. Because Chelsea's story deserves to be heard, her family deserves answers, and this case will never be forgotten. APD presents The White Whale, the Chelsea Yasser Story.
This one stood out a little bit more because it was basically a crime that happened in open public, right in the middle of the parking lot.
So that was kind of an interesting night for me because I was the only crime scene investigator working at the time. And while I was on scene working this homicide, another major incident had occurred up the street. It was also raining heavily.
Very quickly, it was recognized that this was an unusual call that may require extra resources.
If there's a possibility of doing something with the case, we're going to work it. We're going to do it for the victim, we're going to do it for the victim's family, and it's important to all of us to try and solve these cases.
Our cold case motto is we will never forget, and that also means we will never stop working to try to solve this case.
It's from Moby Dick. It's, Captain Ahab chasing his obsession with the white whale, the one that injured him, and he's wanting to get the whale back, and he just never can. As a detective, the white whale is the case that you can never solve.
This case demands answers, and we're not going to stop until we get those answers.
Any homicide detective that does this job for any length of time will find that they have an unsolved case. And this is one of ours.
It's late spring 2016. Pokemon Go is taking over teens and young adults. Captain America Civil War just hit the box office. The song of the summer is already Drake's hit One Dance. Snapchat dog filters are everywhere. The phrase Netflix and chill has firmly entered the cultural lexicon. The Rio Olympics are just months away. Graduation season is underway, summer vacation is around the corner, and for most people, life feels ordinary. But in Aurora, Colorado, ordinary is about to be shattered. It's almost 10 p.m. Sunday, May 15th, 2016. Shift change for the Aurora Police Department. Officers working swings are getting ready to end their day and turn over the watch to the graveyard shift. Seth Robertson, currently a lieutenant in APD's Investigation Bureau, was a road boss 10 years ago. A sergeant supervising a team of patrol officers in District 2. Robertson is in the middle of a briefing, recapping calls of note from earlier in the day, assigning officers to beats, and prioritizing pending calls for service. There's a minute to spare when at 9:59 p.m., Aurora 911 receives a call about a woman down in a shopping center parking lot. She's critically injured, but the 911 caller has little information to provide other than there is possibly a dark-colored SUV associated with the injured woman that is no longer on scene.
That night, one of the things I first remember is that this was the first call of the night for me, because at that point in time, I was a graveyard sergeant. And I remember that this call came out around a little after 10 p.m. And our shifts for graveyards for the police department start at 10 p.m. to 8 a.m. So I remember sort of being in briefing with the other officers of graveyard shift and being told that this call had come out and that swing shift officers were en route to see what was going on with this call. I don't think it was shortly after that we responded to the call after the swing shift officers responded to the call, because I think very quickly it was recognized that this was an unusual call that may require extra resources, and because of that, we responded. Now, part of the quick response to that call is the location. The location of this incident was at the Burlington Coat Factory, which is probably within a mile of the police station at the time. With this call, the unusual aspect of it, what sometimes we handle in police work with any calls that make it a little unusual, is a clear sense that something may occur, but there's not a lot of context as to what occurred and how they occurred. For this specific incident, the only information that was originally given to our dispatch center and also later broadcasted and found by the officers on scene was that something happened in front of the Burlington Coat Factory, and now that we have a female on the ground that appears to be injured, and we don't know the extent of that injury, we don't know why that injury occurred.
While Sergeant Robertson is rallying his team and gathering what information he can about the call, Officer Jared Krieger, an Aurora native and 5-year veteran officer at the time, is speeding to the scene.
This one stood out a little bit more because it was basically a crime that happened in open public, right in the middle of a parking lot. And oddly enough, I grew up a few miles just from where this happened. So I used to go to Burlington Coat Factory as a kid, so it definitely stands out.
Despite being a minute away from his shift ending, Officer Krieger doesn't hesitate and is one of the first officers to arrive at the scene. A former EMT who still carries a medical bag to this day, Krieger is more than qualified to start providing medical care should he be the first to arrive at the scene. But the response from our public safety partners at Aurora Fire Rescue is equally swift, and when Officer Krieger arrives, firefighters and paramedics are already providing care to the injured woman.
It appeared the fire department arrived pretty quickly, so they were already there along with an ambulance. And I remember them saying that they're starting CPR, and so from that point on, you're now dealing with some type of trauma core. And now we're diving into an investigation, maybe expanding out, like where was the last person that was seen, who's involved in this, where are the witnesses, how can we help her, things along those lines. At that point in time, I kind of went into, well, they're taking care of her. How can I preserve evidence? How can we kind of slow things down? How we can kind of create a perimeter so we're not contaminating the scene, and we can kind of dictate who's going to do what and what the follow-up's going to be. I remember right off the bat asking if there's any suspect information of where that vehicle was last seen or where it might have gone. And there wasn't a bunch of information, I think, other than maybe a dark SUV.
Instead of reaching for his medical kit, Officer Krieger grabs a digital camera. He takes the first photos of the scene, documenting evidence and freezing in time those first minutes of the response. 2 other officers are also at the scene. One is taping off a perimeter, ensuring no one enters or exits the crime scene. The other officer is speaking with a witness who made that initial 911 call. The young woman is loaded into an ambulance and rushed to a nearby hospital. Krieger follows.
Went to the hospital, and they had a ocean unit, which is just an off-duty officer that works at the hospital. He met us out in the ambulance bay. I kind of gave him some information, and I talked to the hospital staff, their security staff, about what suspect information we had in case that suspect happened to come to the hospital. So something for them to watch out for. I don't believe at the time, upon first arrival, I even had her name. So as the paramedics are working on her, I just kind of helped make way to have her go into one of the trauma rooms. And from there, I know the medical staff and the doctors are going to go in there and assess what they need to do and the next procedures they're going to have. I know that they'll ask questions, and at the time, I didn't have a ton of information.
If you hang around cops long enough, you'll hear the word chaos used a lot. That's what police officers and especially supervisors are trained to manage, to bring a sense of calm and composure to hot calls when stress and adrenaline are running at their peak.
Those are always chaotic. You always have multiple doctors, you have trauma surgeons, you have the lab crew that's in there, you have other EMTs, other paramedics trying to give handoff reports to nurses. It's a lot of moving pieces for sure. Everyone's elevated and trying to keep calm and composure and professional is most important. I remember being outside the room while they're in there initially kind of working on her, then I was able to kind of sneak in there and keep recording and try to listen and answer questions the best I could about what I knew at the time versus what they know at the time. I also had my supervisor calling me and trying to give me information as I'm trying to give information to, and it's a lot of work, you know. The doctors that are in there, obviously this is what they do, and this is kind of what we do. So kind of meeting halfway and sharing information as fast as we can be very important.
By this time, Aurora firefighters, paramedics, doctors, nurses, and other hospital staff have spent 45 minutes doing everything they can think of to save the young woman's life. But her injuries are too extensive. Officer Krieger has the unfortunate responsibility of radioing back to the officers at the scene. Time of death, 22:45.
And from there, that hospital room is our scene. And so you have to also preserve that too. And this hospital staff did great. We basically froze the scene after they left. And it's a hospital, it's a busy night. They obviously wanted that room as soon as they could, but I had to stay there and just say, hey, this is gonna be our room, and freeze it. And I ended up shutting the doors and staying with her until detectives and our CSI arrived to do some more photos and some more investigations. At that point in time, I knew who she was, and I had a photograph of her sent to me that appeared to be Chelsea.
A photograph of a driver's license with a name and a hometown. Chelsea Marie Yasser, Tempe, Arizona. Up until this point, the focus had been on preserving life. Now, as a devastating turn of events began to unfold, officers need to learn more about Chelsea, and the questions already in their minds since that call at 9:59. Who would want to hurt Chelsea? And why? At the scene, that investigation is already underway in earnest. Back at Burlington Coke Factory, additional officers are arriving to assist, and supervisors are managing that on-scene investigation. Among them is Mark Paulino. Today, Paulino is a commander of the Investigation Bureau, overseeing the Aurora Police Department's violent crimes and special victims sections, as well as a multi-agency violent crime task force known as Raven. 10 years ago, Paulino was a relatively new lieutenant, serving as the watch commander for the graveyard shift in District 2.
So being a watch commander overnight versus during the day, it is a huge difference, because during the day you have all your resources here. Everybody's just a phone call away. People are going to show up to your scene whether you call them or not. In the middle of the night, there is a lot more pressure that you put on yourself, because you're responsible for the safety of the entire city. That's how a watch commander looks at it. And anything that goes wrong or anything that happens, they're the tip of the spear in that situation. The role of a watch commander is real simple. It's to be a mentor, a coach, and a resource for sergeants who are on the road. But there's going to be a call that even if they don't need you, the expectation is that a watch commander is there and that the watch commander is taking responsibility for whatever situation is going on. They're calling the resources, they're notifying the chain of command, they're making sure that everybody's taken care of, that everybody has what they need, and that they're competent, capable, and ready to handle whatever comes their way.
Among the resources Paulino is calling to the scene is the crime scene unit, and time is of the essence. Here's Sergeant Seth Robertson again to explain why.
This was an outdoor scene. Outdoor scenes are susceptible to the weather, just like any other outdoor scene is. In Colorado specifically, in May, you may have sunny weather at one point in time, and then a storm system rolls through, and all of a sudden it's raining and the streets are flooding with water.
Aurora crime scene investigator Sarah Bailey is the only member of the crime scene unit working this night. She has about 18 months with the department and as a crime scene investigator. That cold front moving across the Rockies that brought light rain throughout the day picks up a few notches in intensity. By the time Bailey arrives at the scene, it's no longer drizzling. It's a full-on downpour.
Typically, when I respond to a scene like this, I receive initial information and then I start my initial documentation of the scene, which consists of taking notes, taking overall initial photographs of the scene, and then later detectives respond. We meet, we gather more information that's been learned during that time, and then I will further document the scene, mark evidence, collect evidence, etc. In this case, I ended up collecting blood evidence before detectives responded to the scene, just because I was afraid that there was a potential for loss there. So as a new CSI, I was also a little nervous to make some of the decisions that I made before detectives got there. Because typically we have a protocol where, like I said, we are getting our initial information, documenting the scene, but we're not really going into the scene and collecting anything because we want detectives to see our scene. When detectives got there, I was like, just to let you know, I did this, this, and this. And it was a little intimidating to make that decision by myself. And I didn't really have even a partner to discuss, okay, this is what I'm doing. Do you think it's a good idea? It's like, it's raining. We're going to lose evidence. Let's go.
There's a well-known saying among coroners and forensic pathologists that every body tells a story. And that's not meant to be glib. It means forensic examinations reveal concrete physical evidence to determine the exact cause, manner, and circumstances of a person's death. While processing evidence at the scene, Bailey is learning Chelsea's possessions are also telling a story.
So Chelsea was found on the sidewalk closest to the businesses, whereas her belongings were closer to the actual parking spaces. A witness said that she had initially been seen by her personal belongings, which was also next to a stop sign, and then saw her walk toward the sidewalk where she fell to the ground. I collected several blood swabs, as well as all of what appeared to be her personal belongings. There was a tote with lots of what appeared to be newly purchased items, like beauty products, some clothing. There was also her purse and her wallet. When we went through her belongings, we're obviously looking for major pieces of evidence, but also we can clue into anything that she has with her. And she had a couple of receipts with her. One of them was to Burlington.
The wallet and driver's license give officers a face and a name. A tiny piece of paper gives officers a lead. Chelsea had shopped at Burlington Coat Factory several hours before her body is discovered in the parking lot. The store is technically closed, but there are employees still inside cashing out drawers and restocking shelves and clothing racks. Lieutenant Mark Paulino goes inside to speak with store employees to see about possible security video. He learns there is an exterior camera above the main entrance that captures the entire incident on video.
I went in and found that there was security video at the store that was just immediately adjacent to where the incident occurred. And I reviewed that video and determined that we had her pulling up and something happening. And so I made sure that we got a copy of that video. What some of the unanswered questions were that we needed to answer immediately were, what happened inside of that vehicle? Because the surveillance video showed a vehicle pull up and some movement, something happening in there, and then a person getting out of the vehicle and walking away. The combination of the evidence seeing what was there and left behind, as well as our ability to quickly access surveillance video, enabled us to see what had happened prior to the body getting discovered and immediately establish a timeline.
Even given modern technological advances and the widespread use of security cameras by residents, businesses, and municipalities, it's extremely rare to capture a crime in its totality on video. Cameras sometimes aren't facing the right direction. They might capture evidence of what happened before or after an incident, but not necessarily the crime itself. Often, camera views are obstructed by trees, street signs, or vehicles. It's also common, too, that cameras are old, with poor picture quality, providing a grainy and distorted count of events. The latter is true in this case. Although it's not the worst video detectives have encountered, it's far from high-definition TV. For instance, the angle of the camera, distance, time of day, and limited lighting in the parking lot prohibits officers from seeing a clear view of the suspect vehicle's license plate. Officers also can't see through the windshield to get any kind of description of the suspect in the driver's seat. But the video does provide detectives with a lot of important information. Investigators can see flashes of movement through the windshield and the rocking back and forth of the vehicle, indicating a violent struggle inside. The video is also good enough to give detectives a solid description of the suspect vehicle, a dark red or maroon minivan with a smooth, steep-sloping hood, slim rectangular headlights, and a license plate holder positioned low on the rear hatch. It's later determined the suspect vehicle is likely similar in style to a 1995 to 1998 Ford Windstar. Detectives quickly draft a BOLO that's distributed internally to APD officers and shared with partner agencies throughout the Denver metro area. Press releases and social media posts with photos of the vehicle are shared with local media and the community. Detectives expect the tips to come pouring in, believing in our highly populated region there are likely thousands of red and maroon minivans navigating the streets of Aurora, Denver, and the surrounding suburbs. To this day, the Aurora Police Department has only received 4 tips from the public in this investigation. 2 of them involved red or maroon minivans. The first tip described a Dodge minivan that appears to be ditched up north near Thornton. The tipster finds the vehicle suspicious given its extensive body damage and blown out side window. The second tipster described a red or maroon minivan parked at a residence in Aurora. The tipster believes the vehicle belongs to 2 men with criminal histories who might be good for this type of crime. Detectives respond to both locations, conduct follow-up investigations, and ultimately rule out both vehicles. Few leads, the inability to access the primary crime scene, the lack of closure for Chelsea and her family, an unsolved case. These are all aspects of this investigation that continue to trouble everyone who responded to the scene that night. But the Aurora Police Department never quits, never gives up on our victims, and we're not going to stop until the person responsible is brought to justice.
We knew that she exited a vehicle. Other than that, I learned a little bit later that night, after they watched surveillance, more of what we were looking for. And it's extremely frustrating because in this case, that is our main crime scene. So to not be able to have access to that and process that was a frustrating part of the case.
It was nighttime, but it might as well have been broad daylight in the middle of a parking lot with tons of people in it. And that's how it happened. They're not trying to hide what they did. They didn't try to hide her body or something like that. They just basically treated her like she was nothing and just pushed her out in the middle of a crosswalk. We, as officers, want to bring people to justice. We want to solve what happened to it, and especially for the family and for Chelsea, who has no voice in this right now. We want to be there for her as well.
When it comes to these cases, it's never so much of one officer's responsibility to handle or one detective's responsibility to close. It is a team effort because it's a team mentality, and we all have the same team mentality. We want to make our communities better. We want to make our communities safer. And so when it comes to certain cases that don't have a closure or don't have a solution to them, it's not something that we just give up on. We don't like to give up. We like to win these, so to say. What gets lost in the criminal justice system is the justice for the victims. A lot of times our society thinks more about the rights of the suspect than the rights of the victim. I don't know who Chelsea was. I will never know who Chelsea was, but I can make some assumptions of her. She had family. She had friends. She had people that cared for her.
She's such a small girl to do something like that. And why? The question is why.
Police Department is still interested in speaking with anyone who knew someone in 2016 who owned, drove, or even borrowed a dark red or maroon minivan, similar in style to a 1995 to 1998 Ford Windstar. No tip is too small in this investigation, and your information could make the difference in solving this case. Anyone who has information about this investigation is asked to call our cold case hotline at 303-326-TIPS. That's 303-326-8477.
The White Whale, the Chelsea Yasser Story, is a production of the Aurora Police Department Public Information Office. Special thanks to Officer Jared Krieger, Crime Scene Investigator Sarah Bailey, Lieutenant Seth Robertson, Commander Mark Paulino, Cold Case Detective Jason McDonald, and APD's Major Crime Homicide Unit. This episode was researched, written, and reported by PIOs Joe Moylan and Gabby Easterwood, and our agency videographer Nick Perot. Audio and video recording by Nick Perot. Audio and sound editing by Gabby Easterwood. Story editing by PIO and Agent Chris McDowell. Narration by Gabby Easterwood. This project is overseen by Communications Manager Katie Fisher with the support of the Aurora Police Department Chief's Office. Title track for the podcast, Concrete Burnout, was created with the assistance of AI platform Eureka. Music for the credits, Dusty Spoke, was also created with the assistance of Eureka and inspired by some of Chelsea Yasser's favorite musicians. Additional information about the Chelsea Yasser case, including historical news releases, photos, and video, can be found using the link to source material in this episode description.